Hi, my name is Mihir Deo. I'm the managing editor of the Berkeley Political Review. I'm posting on behalf of the BPR Opinion section, and you can visit their section and all of our sections at bpr.berkeley.edu and follow the election madness. So, the Iowa caucus just happened 2 days ago, and Mitt Romney won by a hair over Rick Santorum by 8 votes. However, the man I'm talking about today is not Mitt Romney, nor is it Rick Santorum, but the relatively unknown for right now, and who got relatively little votes at the Iowa caucus, just about 2% or 774 votes, and that is Jon Huntsman. Now, not a lot of people know who Jon Huntsman is, so just to give a brief snapshot, he was a former governor of Utah, and from 2009 to 2011, he served as the ambassador to China under the Obama administration. Now, Jon Huntsman didn't take place in the Iowa caucuses at all. In fact, he didn't campaign there, claiming that the Iowa caucus does not represent what the nation wants, what the Republican voters want on a national spectrum. He's been camping out in New Hampshire, has been to over 100 events in New Hampshire, and according to the New York Times of January 4th, 2011, he claims that New Hampshire is a better microcosm of what the Republican voters nationally actually feel about their candidates. So he's been camping out there for a while, and we don't know if he could pull a Rick Santorum, and with these small events, he could come up and be a major competitor in the Republican field. Now, there's a couple of reasons why, out of this entire field, I look at Jon Huntsman as possibly the most perfect candidate, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the media presence or the national presence up till now to do so. In fact, in the debates, in the Republican debates, it was mostly Mitt Romney versus Rick Perry and Newt Gingrich or Michelle Bachmann, and Jon Huntsman was largely ignored, and it remains to be seen whether he can actually recover from that. But why is he, shall I say, the most perfect candidate for the Republican Party, despite the fact that he isn't really nationally known? So, one of the things about Jon Huntsman is that he appeals to the independent and moderate base that the Republican Party is starting to have a growing number of. The Iowa caucuses was filled with a lot of conservative voters. This is why Rick Santorum rose as an alternate to Mitt Romney. But not a lot of not a lot of people from the Iowa caucus are similar to the Republican voters that are now peering up all over the nation. According to a New York Times poll on December 26, 2011, they noted that a lot of Republican voters, when giving a spectrum of where they fall politically, more and more Republican voters are saying that they're tending to be a lot more moderate, and that's where Jon Huntsman actually appeals to. Now, if we take a look at his record in Utah and also his record as the ambassador of China, we can see that we have a mix of both extremely conservative plans and also a mix of what would be considered more liberal. So shortly after becoming governor in 2004, he had a 10-point plan that reduced the that simplified the tax structure, and he cut programs by over $400 million, the most in cuts that the state had ever seen. And he also claimed that he maintained fiscal responsibility. Jobs rose in Utah because of this plan, but he also spearheaded a market-based healthcare reform. While other states relied on government control and individual mandates, he delivered reforms that, according to him, gave consumers freedom to choose and negotiate their own coverage in the marketplace. Now, this sounds decidedly conservative, along with the fact that he is pro-life. But on the other side, he does have a lot of moderate stances. For example, he does see financial reform and regulatory reform, the fact that markets need to be regulated, as a high priority as president. And second of all, he does believe in public education and that it needs to be not incentivized with higher prices, but given opportunities to a lot of students. Now, these are things that appeal to both sides of the spectrum, and they meet in the middle, qualifying Jon Huntsman to be more of a moderate campaigner. But the fact of the matter remains is whether he will actually win in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is known to be a lot more technologically advanced than, say, Iowa, and you can't go on a pickup truck just like Rick Santorum did and win over the vote. Jon Huntsman may be the more perfect candidate, but because of lack of media presence, he might not get the nomination. So, what is Jon Huntsman necessarily doing in New Hampshire? Does he actually believe that he can win New Hampshire after not being on the national spectrum? I have suspicions that he might be playing for the presidential election in 2016. Now, one of the reasons why Jon Huntsman nobody has heard of him or he stayed out of the race so far, and he spent the least out of all the candidates. He spent only $110,000 on campaigning, and that's a lot less than the millions of dollars that Mitt Romney has spent. Even though Rick Santorum claims that he hasn't spent a lot of money, Rick Santorum has also spent millions of dollars. But Jon Huntsman has barely spent any money. And I think the reason is that he's playing for 2016. And by the time we get to 2016, the moderate voters will increase, and he's also will appeal to the people who would be supposedly disillusioned with the Obama administration. That's something that's very important for this election as well. It's not only important to appeal to the people who are moderate and some of them conservative Republican voters, but it's also important to appeal to those disillusioned voters that voted for Obama back in 2008. Now, there's a lot of those voters out there who are looking for a moderate choice. Mitt Romney might not do it for him because of his flaws in flip-flopping. Rick Santorum might be too conservative, but Jon Huntsman might be the perfect candidate. In the end, we don't know what will happen in New Hampshire, but we'll have to wait for the next few days to decide. But he might be playing for 2016 as well. Either way, Jon Huntsman is a perfect moderate candidate and might be a winner. I'm Mihir Deo, managing editor of the Berkeley Political Review. Any of the views posted here are not of the Berkeley Political Review itself, but of me and on behalf of the opinions section. I hope you go to bpr.berkeley.edu to follow this election madness, and hope to see you soon.